I think I'm kind of stuck on a Fiddler on the Roof theme this year. We had If I Was a Rich Man recently, and so as I was going over the readings for this one, I kept thinking of that scene where Tevyev and Golda were talking about this guy that their daughter is in love with, and they don't really get it. What's all this love thing got to do with it? And then Tevyev sings to Golda, "Do you love me?" And she says, "What? What do you mean, do I love you? You're just, all this stuff with our daughter. You're something wrong with you." And he asks again, "Do you love me?" And she says, "Well, maybe it's indigestion that you're dealing with." And no, "Do you love me?" She says, "Look, I've been married to you for 25 years. You're asking now, do I love you? Yes, do you love me? Look, I've washed your clothes, I've cooked your meals, I've cleaned your house, I've milked your cow. What? Yes, do you love me?" Ah, well, if that's not love, what is? So, yes, I guess I love you. And Tevyev sings back, "Well, it may not change a thing, but I love you too." Trying to figure out what love is. What is this crazy thing called love? Sadly, in English, we just have that one darn word. In Greek, they have 5 different words for it, but in English, 1. So you heard the commandment. This is the command to love God. And so maybe God would sing to you that same question. Do you love me? What, God, are you talking about? What do you mean? Do I love you? Look at all the things I do. No, do you love me? What? Come on, God. I've been a Catholic all these years. I've volunteered for all these things. I've done all these things at Cabrini, and you're asking me if I love you? Yes, because that's the command. Do you love me? Oh, do I love you? And then back in Deuteronomy in that first reading, and Jesus repeats it in the gospel, he has those all different dimensions of love. Your heart, your strength, your soul, your mind. Are you loving in all those different areas, God? And not just a little bit, not some strength, not some mind, not some part of you, but the law says all your strength, all your mind, all your heart, all your soul, all of it. Think, I don't think we can do it. I think, come on, God. I don't even know if spouses love with all of me. All of me has to love you, all of you, all parts of you. Wow. So if you're setting me up for failure, that's a great command. Because I think, well, okay, we're all going to fall short on that. We're all going to have to confess it every time we come to confession. I didn't love God with all my strength, all my heart, all my mind. How? Which I suppose is why we need a Redeemer. We need Jesus to make up for that part we're missing. But if there's a section of that law that we truly don't do well. It's probably the next part. And love your neighbor as yourself. And love my neighbor. And do we do that? We had a luncheon this week with Within Reach, which is a project in the Omaha area of churches working together to see if we can make an impact in changing Omaha. And they had a speaker come in from Denver, Dave Runyon, who gave a very good talk, but it really convicted most of us sitting there because he said he had gone to a meeting in a group of churches out in Denver. They met with the mayor, and they were asking the mayor about, what kind of things could churches work on to make a difference in Denver. And the mayor just made this offhand remark at one point and said, I don't really think Christians are any more neighborly than anybody else. And they don't make any real impact in their neighborhoods. You think, well, that's the mayor saying that, so they kept asking him about it. And then it bothered this guy. So then he started to just think some very practical things about loving your neighbor. So like one of the most basic ones that he did, and he made us do it there, is name the 8 neighbors closest to you. So who are the people on either side of you? You name them. And then the next 2 out, and the ones across the street. Can you name your neighbors? So then he had us raise hands about how many of us, this is all church people, active church people that are gathered there. How many could name 8? Probably about 10% could name 8. And even when it got down to 4, name 4 of your neighbors, not half the people there raised their hands. You think, you're supposed to love them. And that was his challenge to us. You're supposed to love them. How do you love them if you don't even know their name? It's the command. We are to love our neighbors. And then he was saying, well, most of us as church people put it in those nice. Well, my neighbor, I love my neighbors. I love people at church. I love my groups I meet with at church. I love, generally love people. But no, practically, what does it mean to love? What does it mean to love? How are we to love our neighbor? How do we put that into practice? And he was encouraging us to do just the simplest of things. Like spending a little time next to him, you see your neighbor outside or in the hallway, to at least introduce yourself, to know them a little bit, so you could love them. Yeah, we all fail at it. These 2 commands we fail at a lot. Because what does it really mean to love? Philosophers like to teach in a very simple, basic thing that loving means I say you are as important to me as I am to me. That what matters to you matters to me. Your hurts, your joys, your concerns matter as much as mine matter. It's a decision, not a feeling. It's a decision that you matter. Does God matter? Does what God wants matter? Do your neighbors matter? Are they important to you? We all fail. Which is why we need a Redeemer. So maybe these are the two greatest commands, because it tells us I'm a total failure when it comes to this. And so Jesus has to save me. I cannot save myself. But I can try. Those are the commands he gave me. And if we follow them, then we are not far from the reign of God.